I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning, but hi and welcome to Learning for Life in the UK test part 80. A growing population, that is in part 34. While doing risk training, and if you participate in the risk training, that is a general risk. So we just had, because that might be important for a growing population, that the Bill of Rights had been passed, or they were made, and they limited the power of monarch and said what power the parliament had. Confirmed the rights of the parliament. And the king had to ask every year for new funding for the army and military. And also did they control who got the next king? To some extent, we couldn't find out what extent. Maybe all, maybe nothing. It must be more than nothing, but we don't know how much. Maybe all. And also was it declared that every monarch had to be Protestant. And parties started to form, political parties in the parliament. The king had advisors, ministers who were going for him or her into the parliament and talk to the people. That's not in here, but we say that there, and convinced the people to vote what the king wanted. New taxes or whatever policies the king just thought was necessary. And the people voted for these parties, or for the people in the parliaments or something like that. The ministers credited the number of people who had the right to vote for members of parliament. Yes, for the members of the parliament, the people to vote for them. That doesn't have to be directly for the people. Maybe it's for the parliament. Who could vote for the members of the parliament? It weren't that many. It were only, so women were excluded of the vote, and only people with a certain amount of property. Property of certain value. That does not says anything about the largeness of the area. It could be technically something very little, but maybe something very worthy. For example, someone having just a 5-meter long house, but it's completely out of gold. And that means they can vote. And another person who has, 20 acres or 200 meters land or something like that, cannot vote because, let's say, the 500 meters necessary to vote. So that could be interesting, because property of a certain value. Property, it could be also more than just houses. And let's try these last two sentences. Some constituencies, and I don't understand that word, were controlled by a single wealthy family. I understand it in the sense that there were 100 people living, but only one family could vote. And other constituencies had hardly any voters, and were called rotten boroughs. Maybe that has something to do with boroughs. Maybe they are a borough of a city or something. So an area where people were living. And because there were only few people who had a certain amount of property and value, only 1, 2, 3, 4 people could vote in a whole borough. Something like that. A growing population. This was a time when many people left Britain and Ireland to settle in new colonies in America and elsewhere, but others came to live in Britain. We know that during Elizabeth's period, so during the reign of Elizabeth I, there were discoverers who tried to find new routes to the Spanish colonies in the Americas. They tried to find new trading routes, and we know that also, it must be 1600, the first people started to settle in the eastern part of North America. I think it was somewhere said. In Elizabeth I's time, English settlers first began to colonize the eastern coast of America. This colonization, particularly by people who disagreed with the religious views of the next two kings, greatly increased in the next century. We are where we are. 1680, Elizabeth was 1609, died she. 1603. Now in 1603 died she. Elizabeth I died in 1603, and in the next century, we're having now, not still the same century, just 80 years later, it increased. So this was the time when many people left Britain and Ireland. So Britain and Ireland were left by many people to settle in the new colonies in America and also elsewhere. But others came to live in Britain. So some people emigrated and some people immigrated. Let's start with, I don't know if I'll announce it, we're reading a bit and then we're doing wrist training exercises, and if you participate in wrist training exercises, please set your honest. So we're having our hands next to us, our hands formed to fists, and we're bringing them down and up, and we're having 3 rules for these exercises. The first one is that we're stopping immediately as soon as we feel pain. The second one is that we're going in all these directions only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. And as soon as we've reached the maximum point, we are going back in the other direction. And the third rule was that we are not overdoing it. So this was the last time we were doing that exercise. Second exercise, flashlight, same setup. Now we're going to the inside with fists and then to the outside. And the last time to the outsides and to the insides, and now to the quadrangular castle architect. So both hands with fists out, doing something similar, but hands with fists to the inside. And now up with strong fists. Not really strong fists, but a little bit. To the outside. Down. To the inside. And now the other way around. Down. To the outside. Up. And for last time to the inside. And let's do a bit through. Now to the, let's do first the T-Rex in the gym. You how to tennis ball like this, and you press onto it. If you don't have a tennis ball, just do it without one, just press the fist a bit together. And release again with moderate force, don't overdo it. And the second time, we're releasing, and now for the third time. And we're switching. Press. And release. And again in. No. Press again. And again press it. Well, last time. Now let's do the. Well, we're doing at the moment the frog and the rocket booster and the crab anxious to fever. So, in the times of 1690, many people left Britain and Ireland to settle in the new colonies or other parts of the world, but there also were some people coming to Britain. We know that skilled workers were coming, it must be 1400, I don't know if we knew it any exactly, but were glass manufacturers from Italy, cannon builders from Holland, weavers from France, and engineers from Germany. And now, the first Jews to come to Britain since the Middle Ages settled in London in 1656. What was it for sentence? The first Jews to come to Britain since the Middle Ages settled in London in 1656. In 1665 there was a plague in London, and in 1666 there was the Great Fire in which the St. Paul's Cathedral burned down and was rebuilt under the architecture of Christopher Wren, and Samuel Pepys had written a diary about that rebuilding of London. So, and we also know of London that there is the Westminster Bridge and the Royal Society. No, we don't know it. But the Globe Theatre has been, of William Shakespeare. Of one who should look like how it would look like if it had been built during the time at which William Shakespeare lived, which was from 1564 until 1616. And Isaac Newton was 1563, 77. He was older, so it was 1546. 1643. 1643, 1727. Isaac Newton. So in 1656, the first Jews had, since the Middle Ages, had ended. They ended a lot of them in 1485, at the end of, they never thought of it. In 1485, the end of the Middle Ages, according to them. And so the first Jews since 1656 settled again in London since the Middle Ages. Between 1680 and 1720, many refugees called Huguenots came from France. I don't know if Huguenots is a real religion. But between 1680 and 1720, many refugees, so they were fleeing from the wars happening, the Huguenot wars in France. Many refugees were coming from France on flee. They were Protestants and had been persecuted for their religion. So the Huguenots are a group of Protestants. We also have the Presbyterian and the Puritans as Protestants. And now we have the Huguenots, and they came from France in between 1680 and 1720 because they were persecuted for religion. We have another persecution because of religion that was under Bloody Mary after Protestants. Now we have here also something after Protestants, after the Huguenots from France. Many were educated and skilled and worked as scientists in banking or in weaving or other crafts. We know that the people of the Iron Age were skilled craft workers. So many, I think that we know of who immigrated to Britain. So I mean many of the Huguenots came from France, and the first Jews since the Middle Ages who came to London in 1656 were educated and skilled and worked as scientists in banking or in weaving or other crafts. This is a growing population. I'm pretty sure is that what I mean with growing population? Is the title correctly? That is what I mean. Because they're writing that a lot of people emigrated to America, and a lot of people came to Britain, but I don't think with the growing population they mean that. Immigration, but they mean maybe, yeah, taking them by what I say. But it's the section, the growing population. They never said anything about the growing population. Well, we're through with the growing population. But on the exercises, as I said, we are having three left. First, the frog testing the water temperature, letting their hands next to us, and we're bringing the hands with flat fingers down. And now we're bringing them up again, and we're making strong fists. And we're bringing them down again with flat fingers. And we're bringing them up again with strong fists. And then again down with flat fingers. And again up with strong fists. And the last time, down with flat fingers. And up with strong fists. And the last two exercises, first the rocket booster. Long arms. You can also flex the arms if you like to. Strong fists. So not just a loose fist, but a strong fist. No, but down lower, do it. Strong fist. And now bring these strong fists to the inside. Not with overly much pressure or something, but put some effort into it. And now to the outside. And extend your hands and make flat fingers. And again to the inside with strong fist. And to the outsides with flat fingers. And to the inside again with strong fist. And to the outside with flat fingers on this last step. And now to the curb anxious to a fever. We have your hand next to us, the hand formed to a fist. And we're bringing this fist down. We're pressing with moderate force against it. We're pulling a bit from the outside. And we're pressing a bit from the top, all carefully. And press a bit from the bottom. Not with the other end. The hand next to us forms to a fist. We bring the fist down into flexion, and we're pressing a bit against it. Now from the outside, a bit pulling. And from the top, we're pressing against the third metacarpal. And now from the downside. Just a bit relaxation for the extension to the toe muscle, straight arm, a little bend, here's the brachioradialis, set a little bit next to it on, and come for that pressure of the middle part of the lower arm. And the last time. So we're having just 15 seconds left. So, the growing population, many people left Britain and Ireland to settle in America, but also the first Jews since the Middle Ages settled in London 1656. And many Huguenots came from parts of England and Alexa.